People saw it live. Donald Trump said, "Sit down, boy." But Barack Obama's quiet, sharp reply changed everything. Even people who didn't like him were shocked. The mics caught it all. It wasn't just a moment. It froze the room. The meeting was about race and direction for the country, getting the current and past leaders to talk about the future at the Phoenix meeting facility, hoped to make the two leaders talk about the country road ahead. Then everything changed. Trump leaned into the mic, looked at Obama and said that thing, "Sit down, boy." You could hear the audience gasp. Some people's voices cracked with shock like air hissing out of a balloon. The silence after felt heavy. People in the room did move, waiting to see what would happen next. Up front, a pastor from Detroit slowly shook his head, his mouth tight. A couple of rows back, a college kid in a blue sweatshirt whispered, "Did he just say that?" and started recording on his phone. CNN and Fox News caught everything. The cameras were ready for a big moment, but no one expected something like this. Trump leaned back, looking almost pleased. His supporters in the crowd chuckled, unsure if they should clap. Some smirked, others looked away. But on the other side of the room, people looked angry. An older woman clutched her necklace, trying to calm down. You could feel the split in the room. Shock on one side, tension on the other. Then there was Obama. He didn't get mad, didn't slam his fist. He just leaned back a little, put a hand on his leg, and straightened his jacket. That small move said more than yelling ever could. He showed everyone he was still in control and wouldn't be baited. For what felt like forever, Obama didn't say a word. The silence just kept getting heavier, and you could hear people in the crowd starting to whisper, wondering if he'd fire back, if he even heard what was said and what was taking him so long. Up in the press box, reporters were scrambling to get something, anything, out on social media. Even the moderator, Harold Stokes from some school in Arizona, was shifting in his seat like he was watching a car crash in slow motion. Cameras zoomed in, and you could see the tension in Trump's face compared to Obama's calm, cool demeanor. The whole room felt like it was bracing for a storm. Did you hear what he just said? A woman whispered to the guy next to her, who I guess was some city official, "This is gonna blow up by morning." The guy just nodded, eyes glued to the stage. Trump, realizing the silence wasn't helping him, leaned back into the mic. "What? Did I say something wrong?" he asked, with his smirk that was practically begging Obama to take the bait. But Obama just stayed cool, gave a little half smile, tilted his head, and stared right at Trump. The crowd went into a frenzy of whispers. It was that kind of look people give when they've already decided words are better than yelling. Everyone knew something big was about to happen. The quiet before the storm was almost unbearable. Even some big shot from Fox News leaned over and murmured to someone, "If he says something, everything changes." Every eye in the place was glued to Obama, including Trump, who was drumming his fingers on the podium, unable to look away. You could feel the anticipation in the room, like it was vibrating. What came next wasn't an explosion or a comeback or anger. It was something else, something sharper, stronger, and impossible to ignore. But even before Obama opened his mouth, the silence itself told a story that the country wouldn't forget anytime soon. The Phoenix meeting facility was dead silent for what felt like forever. You could feel the tension in the air, see people leaning forward, eager not to miss a thing. Obama took his time. He reached for a drink, slowly raised it, and took a sip. The mic picked up the sound of the ice, making it louder than it should have been. He set the glass down, smooth and steady. This calm seemed to bother Trump more than if Obama had yelled. Trump shifted, drumming his fingers on the table, looking around like he needed to remind everyone who was in charge. Someone in the front row whispered, "Why isn't he saying anything?" You could hear the worry and hope in their voice. The person next to them replied, "Because silence speaks louder right now." And it was obvious they were right. Every second Obama stayed quiet, Trump lost a little bit of control. The reporters upstairs stopped typing, their fingers frozen. The camera guys zoomed in. A kid in the crowd, maybe 12, tugged on his dad's arm and asked, "What did he mean by boy?" His dad, still watching Obama, whispered, "You'll understand later." Trump couldn't take it anymore. He leaned forward, his voice full of irritation. "What? No comeback? I thought you had something to say." He chuckled, but it didn't land right. It just kind of faded away, like the room wasn't on his side anymore. Finally, Obama moved. He put his hands on the table, leaned slightly into the mic, and looked at Trump. Not with anger, but with something sharper, a kind of patience that cuts deeper than any rage. "I will respond," Obama said quietly. The words were simple, almost understated, but the crowd reacted like a fire had been lit. Phones went up. Reporters started typing again. The silence broke, but not completely, because everyone wanted to catch every word. Obama didn't rush. He leaned back, letting the room breathe. The anticipation grew. He let Trump stew in it, and that control spoke volumes. He wasn't going to let Trump set the pace. In the third row, a group of high schoolers huddled together, eyes wide. One of them whispered, dude, he's about to take him apart. Another slowly agreed, trying not to blink. The host, Mr. Stokes, tried to step in saying, okay guys, let's try it. But he stopped himself. He knew it wasn't his place to interfere. The country was seeing something real and raw, and he just needed to let it happen. Obama quickly glanced at Mr. Stokes, then looked back at Trump. He adjusted his tie, not nervously, but like he was setting up the stage on his own terms. Every small movement seemed to slow time down, demanding attention in a way words hadn't yet done. You know, Obama finally started, I've been called a lot of things in my life. He paused, letting that sink in. But respect has never been something I had to ask for. The crowd went wild. The applause filled the room like a thunderstorm. People jumped to their feet, some clapping until their hands were red. A black pastor in the front row raised his hand and shouted, Amen! Trump smirked, rolled his eyes, and muttered something under his breath. But the mics caught it. Give me a break. Obama didn't let the noise go on for too long. He raised his hand slightly, and the crowd slowly quieted down, still buzzing. With energy, still waiting. His silence wasn't just a pause, it was a move, and it made the words he was about to say even more powerful. Trump leaned back, arms crossed, clearly annoyed. He tried to interrupt, but Obama ignored him. He looked at the audience instead like they were the people he'd come to talk to all along. And at that moment, it was clear that this wasn't just about responding to Trump. It was about something bigger, something deeper that affected everyone watching at home. Before Obama even finished his reply, that silence had already shifted. The power in the room, and everyone there knew the stage was now his. The moment came. Obama leaned into the mic, and the room went quiet again, this time with anticipation. You could almost feel everyone waiting for his first words. Obama began, his voice steady and calm, which somehow made his words hit harder. Look, respect isn't a prize you're given. It's not about your title or how loud you can shout. Respect is earned. It's earned by how you treat people, by the example you set when no one is watching, and most of all, by how well you listen. Them crowd roared with applause, filling the room. Trump shifted in his seat, jaw working like he wanted to jump in, but the noise drowned him out. Obama didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He leaned back slightly, letting the applause continue before speaking in the same calm, deliberate way. Mr. Chief, he said, looking back at Trump, I've been called a lot of things in my life. Some by people who didn't know me, some by people who didn't want to. But I'll tell you what I learned a long time ago. When people resort to insults, it says more about their own fear than it does about your words. A sharp murmur went through the crowd. A guy upstairs leaned forward and whispered, he's taking him apart without even raising his voice. Trump took a breath, grabbed his mic, and snapped back. Don't lecture me about respect, Barack. I'm the president of the United States. His words were strong but shaky, like he was trying to grab something he'd already lost. Obama stayed calm. He let Trump's words hang in the air, then said quietly, yes, you are. And that's exactly why everything you say matters. The title doesn't make you better than the people you serve. The title should remind you that your job is to act in a way that earns their trust. That set things off. Applause, whistles, even people stomping their feet. The host looked around the room, holding up his hands in a half-hearted attempt to calm the crowd, but even he couldn't hide the little smile tugging at his lip. Obama leaned in again and said, you can force someone to sit down, try to make them feel small with words, but respect, you can't order it. It comes when you stand for something bigger than yourself. A lady, maybe in her 40s, wearing a bright red jacket, stood up in the second row and shouted, say that again. The crowd roared in agreement. Obama smiled a little and went on, we teach our kids that what matters isn't how much power someone grabs, but how they use the power they have. Be fair, be honest, lift people up instead of tearing them down. These aren't hard things to understand. They're pretty simple, but they mean everything when you're in charge of a country. Trump leaned forward, cutting in again. Oh, please you. Think words make you better? People didn't pick me to give talks. They picked me to fight. This time, Obama looked right at him, calm but intense. You're right. They didn't pick you to give talks. They picked you to lead. And there's a difference. Fighting for yourself isn't leading. Fighting for people who are different from you, who don't believe the same things, who don't agree with you, that's leading. The place exploded with noise again. Even some people who came to back Trump were clapping, caught up in what Obama was saying. Cameras zoomed in on faces. A young Hispanic student from Tucson wiping her eyes. An all-white veteran clapping slowly, his eyes glued to the stage. But Obama wasn't done. He leaned closer to the mic and added quietly, you see, Mr. President, the strongest thing a leader can say isn't sit down, it's stand up with me. That's the difference. The cheering that followed shook the walls. People jumped to their feet, clapping, shouting. The sound was like a wave washing over the entire place, filling every corner. Trump, looking super annoyed, threw his hands up and muttered, oh, give me a break. But you couldn't hear him over the clapping. stopping. He just slumped back, obviously ticked off, while Obama calmly put his hands on the table, letting the moment speak for itself. But even though that comeback was good, the story was just starting. What happened outside that room would blow this thing up even bigger. The clapping wouldn't die down. It kept going in waves, with one part of the crowd clapping until another took over. It was like an echo that wouldn't quit. The Phoenix Convention Center wasn't just a meeting spot anymore. It felt like a war zone where words were weapons and everyone was caught in the middle. On the left side of the stage, a bunch of young campaign people from Los Angeles jumped up, yelling, "Stand up with me." They kept repeating Obama's last line like it was already a catchphrase. Their voices bounced off the ceilings and got louder as others joined in, but not everyone was clapping. In the back, some Trump supporters waved their hats in protest. One guy with gray stubble, wearing a Build the Wall shirt, yelled over the cheering, "Sit down, Obama! You had your turn." The crowd drowned him out fast, but it showed how divided things were. Reporters were scribbling like crazy. Now they all knew their story depended on where they stood. One reporter from the local paper whispered to her friend, "This isn't just a rally anymore. This will big news for weeks." Near the front, Pastor Harold Gaines from Detroit, who'd come with his group, held his chest and shook his head. There were tears in his eyes as he told the woman next to him, "That's the kind of dignity they can't take away from us. That's beyond words." Meanwhile, a few rows back, a party leader from Nebraska leaned forward, looking serious but thoughtful. He told his aide, "He makes sense, and that scares me." The aide jotted it down, knowing the leader's reaction could change how he handled his next press brief. The split wasn't just during the talk. You could see it in how Trump and Obama looked on stage. Trump was slouchy, all crossed arms and a grumpy face, tapping his fingers on the table loud enough for the mic to pick up. Obama, next to him, kept his hands still and scanned the crowd like a teacher, making sure everyone understood. The host tried to regain control, his voice cracking as he asked people to be polite, but no one listened. A college student yelled, "At the stage that respect is about personality, not power," which got people clapping. Someone on the Trump side shouted back that they wanted fighters, not instruction. Their voices crashed together, mirroring the division across the country right in front of the cameras. The conservative channel zoomed in on a young black girl in the crowd, holding her parents' hand, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and amazement. That shot would soon be all over the internet. The liberal network, on the other hand, stayed focused on Obama's calm face, a clear contrast to Trump's obvious annoyance. Both were already building different stories for their viewers. "Please, everyone," the host tried again, but his words were lost. The crowd wasn't about questions anymore. It was about raw emotion from people who felt like they were witnessing something bigger than just politics. Trump leaned into the mic and snapped that it wasn't a rally for Obama and that he was in charge. This time, he got boos instead of applause. Obama didn't answer right away. He just slowly turned his head toward Trump, giving him that same steady look he'd had from the start. The crowd saw that as strength, and the clapping started again. Near the exits, security guards tensed, ready for anything. The air was thick, not exactly angry, but charged, like an arena split between two teams. As the cheering got louder, one thing was obvious. People had totally different ideas of what leadership should be. Some thought it meant bossing people around, while others believed in staying strong, being honorable, and keeping yourself in check. What made it even wilder was that the cameras caught it all. The anger, the clapping, the sweat, the frustration. People across the country weren't just watching faces. They were seeing a divided nation that couldn't look away. But the real chaos wasn't happening inside that room. It was brewing outside as news channels and social platforms got ready to blast this fight across every screen. By the time the meeting wrapped up, the sky over Phoenix was lit up with camera lights and news vans. Reporters swarmed the building like vultures, shoving mics, cameras, and phones into the air to grab the first reactions from people leaving. The liberal news anchor was already live saying, "What we just saw wasn't just a political fight, it was a cultural quake." The chief's words and the ex-chief's comeback are taking over everything, everywhere now. Across the street, the conservative channel's host, standing under bright lights with the building behind her, told their cameras, "People are blowing this way out of proportion." Chief Trump was just being real, like always. The other side is trying to twist it into something racist. Back at the progressive channel, the host shook her head as clips played on the screen. "You can't ignore what he said. Sit down, boy." That wasn't a slip-up, and Barack Obama's reply, calm, steadily honorable, just showed how different they are. At social media HQ in California, things were crazy. The hashtag Tosh Sit Down Boy was already trending in the country and heading for the top spot worldwide. Right behind it was another hashtag. It's Stand Up With Me, which was the exact phrase Obama used on stage. Clips of the exchange went viral fast. One video shot by a college student had amazing audio and grabbed everyone's one's attention. It hit 3 million views on a short-form video app in just an hour. Another clip, posted by a left-leaning network, showed Obama leaning into the mic talking about respect. It got shared over 200,000 times in under 30 minutes. Then came the memes. Screenshots of Trump looking angry with his arms crossed were captioned with stuff like, "When the teacher calls you out in front of everyone." Others paired Obama's calm look with sayings like, "Real leaders don't yell, they teach." This wasn't just online stuff either. News channels across the country changed their lineups to cover the story. In Phoenix, a local station interrupted a weather report to replay the moment. In a city in the Northeast, a local channel started its late news with the clip, the anchor sounding surprised. Tonight, a moment in Arizona has the whole country talking. Late night hosts jumped on it too. One host played the clip for his audience, who laughed, gasped, and then applauded when Obama fired back. "I haven't seen someone get roasted that calmly since my dad told me I was a mistake," he joked. On the West Coast, another host looked straight at the camera and said, "That wasn't just a comeback, folks. That was a masterclass in leadership." Not everyone was joking. On social media, pastors, teachers, and community leaders wrote long posts about what the moment meant. One pastor from the Midwest posted, "Obama reminded us that a leader's strength is not in tearing others down, but in showing self-control. That's what our children need to see." Her post was shared over 40,000 times in one night. Meanwhile, conservative commentators fought back. A headline on a right-leaning site screamed, "Obama plays victim again." The liberal media cheered. A conservative host told his viewers, "The other side is trying to make Obama a saint while ignoring the real issue. The president is a fighter, and fighters don't soften their words." Still, the videos were everywhere. Whether you watched CNN, scrolled through Instagram, or tuned into your local news, you saw the same clip over and over. Trump saying, "Sit down, boy." Obama pausing, fixing his suit, and responding with words that hit harder than any insult. But see you. AM, the trending topics on social media look like a war zone. Hashtags like "No Obama response," "How respect I earned," "No stand up with me, I'm presidential for him." Experts guessed that over 50 million people had already watched the clip in the first few hours. By morning, headlines were all over the front pages. A DC newspaper, "Respect versus authority. Obama silences Trump with words." A business journal, "Exchange sparks political firestorm as Obama-Trump clash." Even a West Coast paper simply used the quote as its headline, "Sit down, boy." The moment wasn't staying in Phoenix. It was invading every home, every phone, every conversation in America. The story had already spun out of the politicians' control. Now it belonged to the people. The real question was, what did it all mean? Privately, while the public was glued to their screens, both Trump and Obama were retreating to private rooms where the aftermath was just beginning.